What's up guys, Houndish here, and today we're talking about Heresy weapons. So, of course, the Dreadnought is back with the Nether activity, and from that activity we can pick up all of the Heresy weapons. And the weapons this episode can come in shiny and non-shiny variants. The shinies basically being the Masterworked versions, which come with a second origin trait, the one from King's Fall. And that actually applies to Adept and non-Adept versions of these weapons. So it's possible to get a non-shiny Adept weapon or a non-shiny non-Adept weapon, but it's also possible to get the shiny variants of both of them. So we're going to break down a little bit about how that works, as well as perk rolls for all of the new season weapons, the ones that are dropping in Act 1 versus the ones that we'll get in Act 2, and a few extra details. So as always, I hope you guys find this one useful. If you do, get subscribed for more content, and now let's get into it. So like I said, at the moment, shiny versions and non-shiny versions of both variants of these weapons are dropping. So you could get a non-adept version of one of the weapons, but it could drop masterworked with both origin traits, or it could just be a standard version, which most of the time it will, unless you're running the expert version of the Nether, and that's actually where the adept versions will drop. So that's a non-match-made activity. So you'll need a fire team, and yes, it will be difficult. Bungie actually have some updates coming in a week or so to improve health regen inside of the Nether, so it will get easier over time. But in terms of whether you get a shiny version of either of these types of weapons or not, at the minute it appears to be RNG, but the assumption is that as we upgrade the Tome of Want, some of which is actually locked out by weekly resets and things, that tome should give us more options to target specific versions of these weapons. So agency over our drops will improve over time, but both the adept and non-adept versions, including shiny variants of both of those, can drop at any point in the Nether, especially when killing bosses. So you could get an adept weapon drop in the first bubble that you clear and no other adepts for the entire run, or you could get 3 adept drops. It's purely based on RNG. Interestingly, Bungie say that there are 5 weapons available for Act 1, and you can see those on screen. However, interestingly, when you run the expert version of the Nether, it would appear that any of the episode weapons can drop. So I've been getting weapons that are not on the Act 1 list right there, and are supposed to be linked with Act 2. You cannot get those weapons in the normal version of the Nether. So if you run normal, basically you'll get drops from the Act 1 list, best I can tell. But if you run the expert version, it seems that you can get any of the episode Heresy weapons. I'm not sure if that's intentional or not. It's not what Bungie indicated would be happening, so it seems possible there could be further updates on that front in the future. And whether you get the adept or non-adept versions, they'll come with the same potential perks. So we'll break down all of the roles right here. We'll start out with the 5 which are available with Act 1. Firstly, we have the Adamantite, and this is a strand support frame auto rifle. The first trait slot can get Reciprocity, and when healing projectiles from this weapon strike allies, you also receive a small amount of healing. There is additionally Slice, Unrelenting, Subsistence, and then we can get Ensemble, Demolitionist, and Pugilist in the first trade slot, with the second trade slot able to roll Elemental Owning, and dealing unique elemental damage grants this weapon a stacking damage bonus, and the bonus is increased for kinetic weapons. Plus there is Hatchling, Circle of Life, where rapidly healing allies grants this weapon a period of increased damage. Plus there's Tear, and Precision Final Blows cause nearby targets to become severed, so that's another new one for this episode. And slot 2 can also get Attrition Orbs, Frenzy, or Kill Clip. Of course, there is the origin trait Willing Vessel, and dealing damage or defeating targets with this weapon gradually grants increased stability, handling, reload speed, and charge rate, and the effect gradually decreases over time, but is gained more quickly while near allies. Then there's the potential of getting Runneth Over as well, the King's Fall origin trait, and reloading near allies overflows the magazine, and bows receive faster draw time, and swords receive faster charge rate. On top of that, there is the Psycho Pump, which is the new Arc Aerial Denial frame. First trait slot can roll Envious Arsenal, as well as Eddy Current, Ambitious Assassin, Feeding Frenzy, then there's Pugilist, Stats for All, and Threat Detector, with slot 2 able to get Harmony, Elemental Owning once again, Frenzy, Full Court, then there's Rolling Storm, a new one this episode, and Final Blows will grant Bolt Charge, and while amplified, Final Blows grant additional Bolt Charge, which could be pretty good. Plus we've got Demolitionist and Unrelenting in that second slot as well. The next weapon is the Abyssal Edge, a new strand wave sword frame. First trade slot can get Energy Transfer, Slice, Tireless Blade, Relentless Strikes, Duelist's Trance, Valiant Charge, and Flash Counter. Then the second slot can get Hatchling, Elemental Owning, On Guard, plus the Sword Logic, Redirection, Surrounded, and Demolitionist. The Linear Fusion Rifle is also dropping at the moment, and that's Eyes Unveiled, a Void Precision frame. And the first trade slot can get Ambitious Assassin, Overflow, Subsistence, Triple Tap, Field Prep, Perfect Float, and Hipfire Grip. Plus it can get Reservoir Burst, Frenzy, Adagio, Discord, Chain Reaction, which is interesting, then there's Withering Gaze, and Successful Warm-Up. The last weapon which is currently dropping is the Watchful Eye, an arc aggressive frame machine gun, and the first trade slot can get Overflow, Dynamic Sway Reduction, Mulligan, Wellspring, Hipfire Grip, Field Prep, and Eddy Current. Then slot 2 can get Jolting Feedback, as well as Rolling Storm, Killing Tally, plus there's Elemental Owning, Surrounded, Target Lock, and Sword Logic on this as well. So some fairly juicy weapons right there. And again, all of these are currently dropping in Act 1 with both normal and Adept variants, and the Adepts once again will come from the Expert version of the Nether. For Act 2 though, we're going to get Refusal of the Call, which is a Strand Adaptive Glaive. The first trade slot can roll Impulse Amplifier, Slice, Tilting at Windmills, Envious Assassin, Replenishing Aegis, Discord, and Autoloading Holster. Then slot 2 can get Melee Momentum, a new one where melee final blows with the weapon grant it bonus energy and provide increased movement speed while blocking. Plus we have Vorpal Weapon, Unstoppable Force, Sword Logic, Close to Melee, and we have Disruption Break as well as Beacon Rounds on that too. So there's some nice rolls there. We'll also get a new SMG, the Mirror Imago, which is a Strand Adaptive Frame. The first trade slot can roll Recycled Energy, another new bonus, and reloading after defeating targets grants energy to your lowest charge ability. Plus it had Subsistence, Grave Robber, Pugilist, To the Pain, Moving Target, and Overflow in the first trade slot, with slot 2 able to get Hatchling, Target Lock, Swashbuckler, Sword Logic, then there's Permeability, Offhand Strike, and Unrelenting. Another Act 2 weapon is the Anamnesis, which is a void lightweight frame bow. First trade slot can get Archer's Tempo, Dragonfly, Successful Warm-Up, Hipfire Grip, Repulsor Brace, plus we have To the Pain and Perfect Float. Then slot 2 can get Destabilizing Rounds, which of course has had that juicy buff this episode. And there's Demoralize, where precision final blows cause targets to become weakened. I'm surprised how many new perks have actually introduced this episode, but it can get Adagio, Impulse Amplifier, Sword Logic, Moving Target, and Explosive Head as well. Then we have the Afterlight, which is a void adaptive frame fusion rifle. This can roll Under Pressure, Grave Robber, Lead from Gold, Discord, plus we have Offhand Strike, Ambitious Assassin, and Pugilist, which can pair up in slot 2 with Reservoir Burst, Swashbuckler, Adagio, Cornered, Vorpal Weapon, Successful Warm-Up, or Destabilizing Rounds. And finally, the last weapon for the episode is Division, which is an Arc Heavy Burst sidearm. Slot 1 can roll Perfect Float, Eddy Current, Hipfire Grip, To the Pain, Pugilist, Grave Robber, and Encore. Then slot 2 can pair that up with Volt Shot, Kill Clip, Sword Logic, Swashbuckler, Offhand Strike, Eye of the Storm, and Surrounded. So I think overall, between the visuals, the fact that these can drop as shinies and adepts, and then all of the perk potentials on them, this is a pretty solid offering of episode weapons in my opinion, but give us your thoughts down below. Either way, for the moment, I just wanted to do a quick breakdown of the new episodic weapons, how to get the adepts, and of course, once again, in terms of shiny versus non-shiny versions, extra origin traits and stuff like that, double perks, there's a degree of randomization when you actually get the drops, but I'm sure over time, like I said, we'll get more sort of targetable options for those weapons through the Tome of Want. So we just have to keep working on that. So share your thoughts on these new weapons down below, guys. If you found the video useful, a rating really does help us out as well. And if you're new to the channel, be sure to get subscribed so I can keep you up to date. Otherwise though, thank you for tuning in, and I hope you guys have an awesome day.